else to add to it or something?
I'm just playing along with our theme song,
Welcome to
Go
the
ahead.
Lynn and Scott show.
Yeah, welcome.
And as we all see it, and I want to do a pre-note thing here and through the show that Scott is in Florida and he's on the East Coast part and he has some weathers around him. So, I still, my thoughts and prayers with my family, all 200 of them in Puerto Rico, some of them without lights and all that stuff. And now Florida's being hit. It's an annual thing to worry about family in Florida. But so, he's got his phone on for any notices, and we're just, we just hope he can be here through the whole show. We got awesome people to be here, and we got one new guy here, but I'm going to bring our guys up here. We got Mr. Barry Selby, Mr. 50 Ways to
We never
Love
bring
Your
Barry
Lover.
in first. He just took him by surprise. He's never.
I know.
The first one in the room.
This is popcorn style. You never know which way I'm popping over here.
He's like, what the hell? He didn't even get his hair done or anything yet. I mean, come on.
Yeah, hang on. Let me finish adjusting it.
Thank you, Barry, for being here. I love you.
Good
Hold
to see
on
you,
a
Barry.
second.
Love you too.
And then we have Mr. Hipster. That's his name.
Oh, the hipster himself, Scott Schilling.
Now and forever.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes, Hipster.
Hey, Barry.
He didn't change it. So welcome to the stage here. And then
All right.
we have the and Scott's book is I love it. Oh shucks. What now? And then this guy who's I think is really cute. I got a little crush on him. Mr. Bob Donnell. Hey Bob, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna
Bob, I don't have a crush on you, but it's good to have you here, brother.
Thank you, sir. Oh, you do too.
And I'm gonna let Bob Donnell introduce this awesome guy, which I'm gonna bring the book up here too. So Bob, if you want to talk a little bit about this guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Jason Freeman is a very dear friend of mine, just an amazing human being, above and beyond his capabilities of transpiring and inspiring a complete audience. He is the real deal when it comes to authenticity and living out his purpose. Amazing.
I'm so excited to mention that he's here live. Jason Freeman, thank you for being here.
Jason, welcome to the show, brother.
Hi, it's fun to be here. Thanks.
No,
Excellent.
we are happy. He was interviewed by I met him through Debbie and Find It because I produced a show over there. Just an amazing guy, and he's funny too. He's hilarious. So again, we're Flo's happy to be here, and look at this, all the rock stars. So we super excited.
Are you the only lady tonight, Lynn?
I know Pam Aubrey's not here and Debbie's not here, but Debbie and Pam will do a show tomorrow. So I'm excited for that on Find It. And today's topic, which we actually picked the topic with a bunch of you guys backstage last week, and it's all about courage.
Just one word.
Just
think
one
of
word.
it however you want to think of it. There's no precursor to this. This is just the word courage, which I think it means something different to everybody, or it applies differently in every situation. But certainly something we need more of. I think it's really easy to just not have courage and go along with the crowd, and not to be your authentic self, and not to stand up for what you believe in. But I think we need a lot more people with courage to stand up and do what's right these days. So I love the topic. I think Scott, we're gonna blame you for this topic this week. So why don't you tell us I think you were the one who said we talk about courage. Did you have something in mind when you were thinking that?
We're in a time where.
What did that's not what I meant to do to you. Let's try that again.
Evidently, I've talked.
Wow, cut him off. Nice.
I'm done.
You just made the censors go crazy. Whatever you were about to say.
Yeah, when they can get into my head like that.
I love you. I'm sorry.
My God. Where was I? I just, we're in such a time of issues
I mean, and polar opposites and so many different things that it's really hard to solve issues if we can't talk to each other. And I think you have to have some courage to get into some of these conversations and just talk openly and honestly about solving an issue. And that takes some courage. Courage isn't the lack of fear by any stretch of the imagination. It's taking the action even though the fear exists. It's pounding through it. It's being uncomfortable and going and making something happen. And the vast majority of fear, quite frankly, once it's confronted, it's also eliminated, because the reality is that people realize that it was more of an imagined response than a real response. And so again, I think courage is much the same thing. You can be courageous and fearful at the same time, but you just know you still have to take the action and move forward. And I think we're at a time where quite frankly, people have got to talk about the issues and things that are going on in the world today, and confront them in an open conversation. I don't have to agree with you. You don't have to agree with me. I do believe we should respect and honor and dignify each other in our process. And so I think a big part of courage is being willing to do that, is to respect others, honor others, and lift each other up.
I love that. Would you agree that it takes a great deal of courage to be wrong as well, is to listen to somebody else and change your direction, to not just stand by what you've always known, but to listen to somebody else and say, hey, maybe they're right and maybe I'm wrong. That takes a lot of courage, because one of our greatest fears is that we're wrong about what we believe. Is that true?
Well, I agree with you on one side that you have to be open to it all. The point is, when you get more mature, that's code word for older, you've got it all figured out. You have to be open to different things. I know that you've got to, for me, you've got to be a constant and passionate learner and understand. And if you adopt that mode, you'll find yourself being willing to say, wow, I learned something new today. And that new belief is not what I believed in the past. And so that's fine. That's why I think we've got to have conversations. Yeah. You can't just be, fighting tooth and nail. And by God, you don't agree with me, so I'm going to blow you up. Well, how did that help anything? It just doesn't make any sense. I don't necessarily agree with you, but give me the reasons why you believe what you believe. I think it's awesome.
Absolutely.
So go ahead and share your point of view. So I believe you're right, Scott. You gotta have courage in the face of fear.
Beautiful. Love that.
I think Bob wants to say something next. I could be wrong. No, he's just listening.
Bob always got that look. It's the same look every time. I don't know. It's like, does he want to talk? Did he fall asleep?
He always has that look.
Somebody I want to put a mirror under his nose. I don't know.
Jason, would you listening. Jason, would you like to say something?
About courage?
Would I like to follow the Scots talking about courage?
Yeah.
Not necessarily. What they said is so amazing. What I'll add is, I think it also takes courage to be our unique selves and really go after what we are meant to do in this life, instead of sitting on the sidelines and just not growing. Yeah. Growing is it can be frightening and intimidating, because we compare ourselves to other people, and right now I'm comparing myself to the Scots, and I'm like, oh.
Oh my God. I love you, Jason, because Brian Calm, who's not here and I have a show with, every time I slur out words or make up words because I speak Spanish too, he just calls them Lynnisms. And I love it. One day it's going to be a book of Lynnisms, and I have a meaning for them. So So I understand, and I can relate with you a lot, Jason. But no, we want to hear what you say, because this show is all about, as we all see it. So I love your perspective. Love it. And Mr. Barry?
Yes. You want me to say a couple of things?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, if you insist. It's interesting because what's been said before, which I'll say another way, is oftentimes being courageous is being willing to stop following the herd.
Yeah.
And to separate ourselves, to walk free of it. And sometimes it's the greatest courage to say no to what everyone's saying yes to, that sort of thing, where you choose a different path. And for me, it's been one of the greatest gifts by doing that, because I found the right people, in quotes, that I want to be with, the crowd that aligns to where my values are. If I stayed with where I was, I would have been suffering for decades doing what I didn't want to do. So having the courage to follow your calling, your heart, your true nature. Yeah, I agree with you, Scott. Like, we should all be doing that, because it's going to change the planet. The funny thing is, what came up first, though, when we started talking about courage, because my work's in the area of relationships, so many people are afraid to have the courage to walk away from a relationship that's not working for them. They'll stay in a marriage or a long-term relationship. Oh, Teodora has got this question.
Teodora,
let me get to that one in a second. So one of them is the fear of walking away. It's not having the courage to walk away from a relationship, especially when there's kids involved, because of the fact you've got that loyalty rather than what's true to your heart, which is to actually, to walk away. Maybe it's abusive or neglecting, whatever it is. People stay when they're not really safe to be anymore. But flipping the script, because to this question about does it take courage to be in a relationship? Absolutely, it does. For many people, being in a relationship is the greatest fear of all. Let me say another way. To be in a real relationship, not just any relationship, but we take down the walls and you become totally transparent and vulnerable and emotionally naked with somebody else. That takes immense courage for a lot of people. So to be in a relationship, because you can be in a relationship and just keep all the walls up and pretend everything's okay, which many people do. But to choose to take the walls down and to be that vulnerable with somebody else in a romantic environment or a connected, intimate relationship takes a lot of courage. So yes, I answer your question, yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, being an introvert and being timid and all the things I went through when I was way younger, other people having courage and coming forward first, like my kids are my heroes, and different things I went through, because like I'm at the curve that if you've been sexually abused, oh, you got mental illness, and people dismiss you, and if you've been abused, and blah 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 blah. And so it's one of those things where my kids, when they found themselves in unfortunate situations, they could speak up. But you got Me Too, you got all these different things that the more people are vulnerable to speak their story, the more you realize that you're not alone in that boat in anything. And you also have the courage to say, I want to pay it forward because Jason talked, Scott talked, Bob talked, Hipster talked. I mean, when you put yourself around other people that can relate to you, you find more comfort in being yourself around those people, so that you can, just like when you're born with a family, you're able to go out of your family unit and face the world, and finding your tribe to have the courage. You need that, because when people can, sometimes it's easier to see something in somebody else before we realize the reason why you see it in them is because you too have that, but you don't have the confidence as you feel that other person is reflecting out.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So
absolutely.
That's called positive projection.
I was just sitting here thinking. I was thinking a bit. We spend so much time trying to conquer fear, and we write books about beating fear, and we go to therapists to beat fear. Sometimes it's simply the courage to walk through fear and stop trying to defeat fear and simply acknowledge it, but move through it. Yep. And I think there's not enough focus or attention paid on that. Listen, we're all going to have anxiety. We're all going to have moments of fear. We're all going to have moments of trepidation and everything else. And whether it's a simple decision we're making or something brand new, we're trying a new job or a new relationship or whatever it might be, there's always going to be that little pang of fear. And it seems to me we spend a whole lot more time focusing on the fear, which actually feeds it, which creates this whole industry about how to deal with fear, and not enough people saying, we all feel that, just walk through it and see what happens. And I think we need a little more courage and a little less focus on the fear. Just my opinion. But I've watched a lot of people who just fall into these lines like lemmings, and they don't shift out of it because they don't want to go against it. They're afraid that they're going to look a certain way or something, and they live so much in that fear. Just walk through it. It's amazing. The best way to beat fear, acknowledge it, know that it's there, but then walk through it and stop paying attention to it.
That's what courage is.
And the cool thing is when you realize that other people can acknowledge that and speak it out, and they don't look like you, or they look like you, or you resonate with them. That's why everybody should have their voice and speak out, because, you may hear it monotone from somebody else and you don't resonate with them, or you don't feel they're authentic until two things happen. One, it happens to you, or two, you see somebody that you can relate to. So that's why, like, having this panel here, we can all be saying the same thing, but we say it different, and it's going to resonate with different people. And I know Bob has said that in the past too, but it's important to know that everyone has a voice and everyone should be heard and seen. And Bob did a great talk. You see, Jason, you see it? You see me? I'm all tongue-tied here. But he did a TED Talk, and it was great TED Talk. And like I said, that's courage to do these things. And Jason, have you done a TED Talk too?
Same day.
Yes. Same day you did a TED Talk?
Oh, yeah.
I need to go watch his TED Talk. You see, I didn't even know that. How about that?
Yeah.
So
I don't even know what a TED Talk is.
You're kidding.
I thought it was a movie about that teddy bear that talks. I have no idea what it is. Everybody said, did you do a TED Talk? I'm like, no, I hate that movie. I don't know.
Person bear.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah.
Scott, though, what you said though is because the thing is, having courage is not about being fearless. I think somebody said it once about courage is having the fear and doing it anyway.
Yeah,
right.
And that's the thing is, I think all of it. Say again?
Yeah, that's the definition: the ability to do something that frightens you.
Yep.
Right. And that's the thing is that and it's kind of what you said, Scott. It's like for me, having the experiences I've had in different ways, I know when I had the courage. There's the thing, when I had the courage to do something, I could feel the fear, but it was almost became the excitement and the exhilaration that came underneath everything. Because if it didn't have the fear, it'd be boring. Frankly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why we go on roller coasters. We don't go on roller coasters because we go on roller coasters because there's a little bit of us that's like, I'm scared, but I want to feel that exhilaration. But then in other circumstances, that fear makes us stop dead in our tracks and not take chances, not do the new job, and not to do this, not do that. And it's ridiculous. It's like fear it's an adrenaline builder, but it should be something that we're able to walk through. Listen, if courage was popular, every politician would be trying to talk people into being courageous. Every politician out there is telling people what they should fear. They fear this, fear that. That's how they control people. That's how people, I'm going to say it, it's not a popular thing. That's how people like Hitler can rule a country, by unifying fear, not unifying courage. So we need to build our courage. Then maybe we'll find some people that run in politics that aren't so fear-based and start to live in courage. But no, I agree with you. Fear, we always talk about it like this horrible thing, but then we go out and we seek it.
Oh, there we go. Warning.
There we go.
So this is a live warning for Florida.
Got a little tornado in my area. So if I swirl if I spin around really fast and fly off the screen,
Bob, I think we might go viral
that would be exceptional camera work and everything. I mean,
it would be fantastic. And I'm just hoping I land in a place with a bunch of little people saying, "Follow you on a big road, follow you on a big road."
Well, I did a study not too long ago. There are actually 549 documented fears.
All righty then.
549 documented phobias. And so it's not hard to understand why everybody casts fear upon each other. I mean, they're throwing all these different things. But again, it's not about being afraid. You can't be fearful in the present. It's not possible. You have to leave the present. You have to go into the future, and you have to imagine a negative situation happening.
Yep.
So you actually have to manufacture it to do it. And that's the part that people don't, again, when I learned that by studying and trying to study the topic, it was fascinating to me to put that into that perspective and realize if I really want to get out of fear, what I need to do is get back into the present and feel and experience what I'm experiencing right this second.
You doing okay over there, Scott Jonesy?
Yeah, really.
I just got a lot of people texting me telling me to go hide in my bathroom. I'm sorry.
So, I want to talk about this.
Elvis died in the bathroom. I'll die in the studio. I'm fine here. I'm good.
Bob wanted to say something.
Go ahead, Bob, please.
This whole idea of courage, right? I mean, that's the topic.
Yes.
Courage is living versus existing. There are far too many people just existing, and they're not really living. But to live, you have to have courage, because living means you're going to fail, you're going to have setbacks, you're going to have challenges, you're going to have breakups, you're going to have new challenges. Every time you start something new, it's going to be different. It's going to be difficult or possibly difficult. And it's this whole idea of courage is actually living. And when we put ourselves in the place where we just choose to live versus exist, that's when we start separating ourselves from the herds, like I think Barry said.
Very well said, Bob.
Excellent.
True.
I love that you said that, because I think things need to happen for you to react, and being in the moment, and not knowing the unknown. Like on Friday last week, I got a call from my doctor, and I knew I had dangerously low vitamin D, but I'm pre-diabetic now. And I've been having some really dizziness and just depression and just things that are just been hardcore for me. And I'm just grateful now, because I am taking metformin, and I'm going to get this 5.8 down to 5.5, where I've been for a long time. And that's, but again, it's, I don't want to think about diabetes like my brothers and sisters have to, so I'm going to just be proactive. But I look at it as a blessing, because I'm getting a chance now to do something before my one brother. I think right before Thanksgiving one time, his blood went up to 600, his sugar. He almost went to a coma. So, I mean, that's how it attacks my family. It's just like then there's no notice. Boom, all of a sudden you're there. So again, but the courage is to say, that I'm taking this seriously, and but I'm not going to worry about anything. I'm just going to take every day and do the things I know they say quit smoking. I could do that because I'd never smoked anyway. So you see, I'm already ahead of the game. But again,
Lynn, you raise a good point. You found out information, and you're now being proactive with the information and taking steps, and that's courageous. I guess another way to not feel fear is avoiding tough things, like avoiding tough conversations. So what's like Scott was talking about at first? What's the distinction between being proactive and being avoidant?
That you bring a good point, because some people think not talking about the problem is going to fix it, but you don't understand. I mean, you got to make the decision that, what, I value Bob or Hipster or something, to say, what, I value this relationship, to say, this is bothering me, let's talk it out, than to keep letting it be a splinter that's going to pop and then nothing gets resolved. And then, or you share your feelings or perspective. And to me, if you got somebody open-minded person and you can talk to them, then that's a good relationship. But if they don't want to listen to you or hear you, then right there that that's not a good conversation. Ask the questions, like Bob says, ask good questions to know if it's safe. Like if they're pissed off about something else, that's not a good time to be asking them about something that you got beef with them. I mean, it's, timing and questions are everything, but the courage is to say, hey, I know you're not in a good mood right now, Bob, but later I'd like to talk to you about something, that kind of thing. But nothing's going to get better if you don't talk about it.
one of the techniques I use, or one of the processes I use, is understanding two words have one shared definition: confidence in the unseen, assurance of the unknown. That's the definition of fear. Confidence in the unseen, it hasn't happened yet, but oh, it's going to be bad when it does. Assurance in the unknown, oh boy, whoo, this is going to be awful. But it's also the definition of faith. Confidence in the unseen, assurance of the unknown. So now it becomes a choice, because you know that definition. It becomes a choice which side of the definition you take. One is belief in the positive, the other is belief in the negative. Choose positive. Zig used to say, it's not, being positive doesn't last forever, but neither does a shower. You might as well take one every day, though. Right. Yep. So the whole point is you might as well stay positive, and you might as well stay in the framework that confidence in the unseen, assurance of the unknown is faith of something great coming your way, and placing yourself there.
I just want to, and that piggybacks on something I wanted to say before that, Scott, you mentioned about being in the present. Absolutely. Because fear, 90% of your fear is based in things that haven't happened. And you don't even have experiential evidence in it. The truth is, if I have experiential evidence that something is going to burn me, if I touch the stove, it'll burn me. As a child, I become afraid of the stove. But as an adult, I start to realize, well, as long as I don't touch it, I'm not going to get burned. I'm not afraid of the stove anymore. I've got experiential evidence on how to handle that. I'm not thinking every time I go to put a pot on the stove that, oh my God, I might burn myself. It's not that fear isn't there, but especially the things we haven't had experience in, that fear, if we could stay in our moment, that fear doesn't have that control over us. And I want to put, again, I applaud you. You go through the surgery, and of course, the first thing they offer is pain meds and opioids and different things and stuff. And that's based on, you're not hurting now, but you're going to hurt later. So let's be proactive and live in that fear that it's going to be so painful you can't live with it. Instead of people saying, well, why don't I just wait and see before I do something that's that drastic? I just, and I applaud you for that.
Well, thank you. And they even sit there and say, don't let it get to a point. We want to get out ahead of it. And it's like, you want to get out ahead of something that's not happening, that's going to put chemicals into my body, that's going to do what?
And that may not happen. And it may not happen.
Exactly.
It's possible it could happen, but it may not happen. So now, just because it might happen, I put stuff in my body that could alter my brain chemistry and do a whole lot of things. And that's why we see sports people could become addicted constantly, because they're putting this out there. Instead of dealing with the pain a little bit, they're saying, let's avoid the major pain by just taking a pill now. But that's, this is what they feed us. They feed us this in TV commercials, in politics, and everyday life. Do this, because if you don't, this is going to happen to you. And everybody's afraid. Just have the courage to go out there and do your own thing and see what happens. How bad can it possibly be?
Yeah. And they don't talk to you about the fact that, get on those pain pills, and all of a sudden you're not feeling the pain, and you're not realizing that you're damaging or you're doing something you shouldn't, because you didn't feel or pay attention to that pain. So you just took a setback because you took something you shouldn't have.
Yeah, the courage is to believe in mankind, in one another. These are some pretty awesome people on this panel, and some pretty awesome people watching the show. I'm honored to be on with everybody, because you all believe in each other, and you all believe in the human race. That's what we need more of right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's do some shout outs real quick. We got Michael with us, Scott, Ricard, Pamela, of course, Flo. God bless you, Flo. You put up with Bob. Pamela.
It's courage.
Teodora, and now Paul, who, I love this thing about fear, false evidence appearing real. It is it's false evidence until it happens. It's just,
there's a couple of variations on that one as well, by the way. There's a couple of variations. There's a couple of variations on that acronym. There's about 17 of them. I remember one of them is false expectations appearing real. That's one of them as well. But the other one is forget everything and run, which means more powerful, because people, when they get afraid, tend to run away from stuff. But the opportunity with fear is you can flip it the other way around, which is forget everything and rise. So you can face the challenge, you can grow beyond it. So you can play with it any way you want. So these acronyms are great to use when they work for you, but when you use them against yourself, that may not be the best idea.
Yeah.
I don't see courage and fear being the opposite of each other.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can be fearful and be courageous at the same time.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
And so I think when we pivot or when we pit fear against courage, we lose something in that translation. I think it's better to look at I can be fearful and I can be courageous at the same time. Courage is going to make me do something or be something or take an action. And fear would do the same thing, but it might be in the opposite way. It might be hedging our bets. It might be taking a little bit longer to make a decision because of fear. We can still be courageous, though. So I really just want to stress that courage and fear are not exclusive of one another.
Yeah,
I think we're all on the same page with that. The
Yeah.
fear, they're absolutely not opposites. Fear is a different thing. But fear can freeze you in your tracks and not allow you to be courageous if you don't allow yourself to be courageous.
It's
But
just like
if you don't have fear, courage really doesn't come into play, because I really wouldn't call it courageous for me to get up and go get a soda from the fridge because there's no fear involved. It doesn't require courage. It requires thirst. It's a different thing.
So, were you going to say something, Jason?
I don't know, guys. Fear can do a number on you. Like when I don't have fear, I speak normally, but when I'm afraid, I have a speech impediment. That's totally not true.
And we love you just the same. So, if anything, you were using that as an excuse. That's what I think. No, and that's the other thing. I think we use the word. We find excuses not to have courage. We give ourselves the easy outs and the reasons. And so, like, for me, courage is to dare myself to do the things that are difficult for me to do, because I look at what I want to accomplish by doing that. Like me doing a book in a short. I published a book, didn't know what I was doing for 3 weeks. And I was thinking of all the different excuses of why not to, but I was like, no, but I'll be an author and I'll get this done and I'll have a gift to give to people and blah, blah. But there was a lot of negative that I could have used to validate excuses, not to have the courage. You know, when I said I was going to do a book, my dad says, I only hit you twice. I mean, like, you know, I had to write the book of my life without being so whatever, you know. But again, it's the things you have to think about. But I don't say, oh, well, my dad is going to get mad because I'm going to write my story. I'm going to write my story. But, you know, it's so many different things, and you can use a lot of different excuses. And so I think the courage is to say, you know, you need to dare yourself, you push yourself, and excuses are not an option. Not an option. You have to face that fear, whatever it is, or it won't go away. It'll still be there. And it won't be something you're accomplishing.
So I can offer something close to what Bob said, because the thing is, for me, fear and courage can be like woven together. Like you can't block one out to do the other one. A long time ago, I went through a journey that put me in a place where I could choose, and I decided to do a free fall jump out of a plane. Did it once, never did it again, but did it once. And because it was a free fall jump, not a static line or a tandem jump, I had to go through training for it, because for those who don't know, a tandem jump is where you're strapped to a jump master, so you don't do anything except you fly and they control the jump. A static line is a 25-foot cable tied to the plane to your jump ripcord. So when you jump out the plane, it pulls your chute. Again, you don't have to do anything. Accelerated freefall, they called it. It's done in Paris Valley, California. You jump out of the plane, you control the jump, but there are two jump masters holding onto your jumpsuit. So you're not tied to anything. They don't control anything. You run the jump unless you screw up, and then they intervene, but you do everything. And the experience of doing first the dirt diving, which you do it on the ground, you learn how you step out the plane, jump out, do the whole thing. Once we get in the plane, and the engine starts, and you start taxiing down the runway, the plane doesn't have a door on it, so you can see things disappearing. So I'm watching.
Warning.
Well, it's like for me, courage and fear are doing a dance together the whole way up. Yeah, we're not jumping in February, so we did like 10,000 feet because it was too cold to go any higher. But when we get to the point of the jump, it was like taking off was the hardest part because I was seeing the ground disappear. Then it was okay because it was up in the air. Then we get to the point where we're going to jump, and I can feel my my fear rising as the jump master saying, okay, it's time. So one of the jump masters gets out on the strut of the plane, and then I'm supposed to get out next to them. The other person gets out after me. So the three of us on the strut of the plane, from the wing strut. The feelings that were running through me, which was definitely a lot of fear, but also I can't back out. Even though I probably could have backed out, I can't back out was what was running through me. So it was the courage to say yes, even though I was, to be blunt, shit scared.
Yeah.
Was to say, let's do this. And so I can, again, the person who's the trainee, so to speak, controls the movement of like, you hunch, then you jump out of the plane. And the experience was incredible. I mean, all the way down, because we basically go free fall for about 5,000 feet to the point where I pull the chute, and again I pull the chute because unless the altimeter goes too low, and then it pulls for me. There's lots of backups, but in the moment, there's no thinking about okay, I'd have to worry about anything. There's backups. I'm still the one in charge, and the feeling that goes over me when it goes to experience, and then when I pull the chute, pull the chute out. And that's when I get yanked out of the jump master's hands because they're basically, we're all free falling. You get pulled out in a big chute. It's like suddenly everything stops. And in that moment, that's when the fear and the courage dissipated.
Wow.
Because I was suddenly floating.
Wow.
And at 5,000 feet, I've got, and also the great thing is these chutes, they have the ones that you control by brakes. You can steer left and right. That was when the kid in me came out because the panic went away, the fear went away, and the courage was like, this is easy. And so I did it again. But the thing was, and this is a funny thing, little sidebar, is that I came in to land beautifully, slowed the chute down, braked beautifully, hit the ground, and then collapsed under my butt. Because what happened, and this is apparently what happens physiologically, when we jumped out of the plane, my legs tensed to land. Like when you jump out, your body tenses to land. Well, it was a lot longer than that before I got to the ground, and my legs had gone to sleep. So I get to the ground, and I'm like, perfect. But I hadn't thought about my legs standing up or any of that stuff, so I collapsed. But the whole experience was one of just that dance of fear and joy and courage together. So what you said, Bob's so right on. So yeah, that was a visceral experience for me for that.
See, I would be the guy who set off his chute in the bathroom of the airplane because I was in there throwing up, getting ready to go, and I would have thrown the. But hey, anybody can skydive once.
Yeah.
You don't even need training to skydive once. You need training if you want to go twice. That's the thing. But we talk about these big things. I wanted to make sure that we mentioned that. Hopefully, you guys can all speak to this. The courage. I think sometimes we get confused that courage is about jumping out of planes. Although I love the story, and that is a true thing, and in doing these big things. But courage is walking up to a stranger and saying hello in a business meeting. Courage is walking up to the girl that you like and saying hi. Would you like to go somewhere and do something? Courage is signing that paper to buy a house. Courage is, there's these little moments of courage that we have every day that in the face of that trepidation or a little, even if it doesn't have to be that crippling fear, but we've always got that thing hold us back. Are we sure we should? We're taking a chance. Those little moments of courage, I think we don't celebrate those enough for ourselves. It's not like we need to throw a ticker take parade because Scott asked a girl on a date. I think for myself, I should be able to sit back and say, God, well done, and build a resume of I take chances and I do things instead of stopping myself. And I want to, for everybody out there, I just want them to know you've got moments of courage every day. Maybe if we spend more time acknowledging those, we might feel a little better about ourselves. What do you guys think about that?
Absolutely.
I don't think there's any doubt about it. Think about it in the sales profession. Your first cold call, if that doesn't take some courage, I don't know what does. Right. And then all of a sudden somebody answers the phone and they're nice to you and you get an order and you go, hey, that was pretty easy. And you start to understand the difference. Right. We've got some great speakers on the panel. The first time that you get on stage and all of a sudden you got a bunch of people looking back at you and you go, okay, I got to provide some value here. Woohoo. This is going to be fun. Right.
Yeah.
First time you did a podcast. Any of this. First time you joined this show as a guest.
Yeah.
That takes some courage.
Yeah. No, we make it easy. I know Bob had something else to say.
We're not scary.
It's just a building of the muscle. And And it comes through reps, right? It comes through reps and it comes through intensity. So the muscle will always stay dormant until you stretch it, until you push it. So that's the same thing with courage. And I think, like you were saying, courage is situational. The level of courage to walk to the fridge, almost nothing. The level to run a 26-mile marathon, a whole nother level. The courage to go into battle for our military, a whole different level, or to be a police officer. So I think it's very situational, and we have to match and meet it at its root, at the level of intensity that's required.
I had people say I had courage to do this.
Wait a minute. Are we talking about courage or bad decisions? I'm not sure what we're talking about here.
That's next week.
Come up to me and go, boy, you got courage. I'm like, for that? That's just hair guy.
That was back when she had her crush on Barney. I got to tell you something. I actually had an experience yesterday. I want to share that. I was training yesterday. We had an all-day training, and I was training people in addiction and trauma and things. And I was training 50 police officers from the city of Miramar down here in Florida. Fantastic, amazing, courageous bunch. First of all, I was a little scared because whenever I'm in a room where I'm the only one not wearing a gun, that's always a problem. But
it used to be. That's used to in the past.
To look around these rooms and see a lot of, there's younger ones, there's older ones, there's people that have been on the force for a long time, and the situations they put themselves in. And yet still, a few of them, when I approached them and had them speak, they were very shy. They were afraid to speak. They go out there and they face fear every day. They go out there and they face these situations that I wouldn't want to do, that I would be terrified to do. And then they couldn't speak up in a group of people. So it is very situational, person to person. But that's why we have to acknowledge when we conquer something for ourselves, please keep a resume, feel good about yourself and do that stuff. I can't compare myself to the police officers out there doing the job, but I can compare myself to me. What did I do this year that's different than last year? What chances did I take in my life? And what opportunities did I not turn down because of fear? And I had courage to just try. But it was an amazing experience. And God bless first responders, military. Thank you for your service. Thank you for everything you do.
Amen.
We haven't heard from Jason in a while.
So yeah, thanks. I have a idea. What about things that were like acts of courage in the beginning, but then we start taking for granted because we do it so much? Like Barry, if you jumped out of a plane every day for 10 years, it would just be your ordinary life. It wouldn't be courageous. So
that's the first time, yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we celebrate those things that we do that were once courageous, but now are just what we do? Or do we celebrate them? Or?
I celebrate. I was married 3 times and I've been divorced and single for a while now. So that's courageous right there.
Well, I don't know if you can get the same level of courage every time you do something, but you can adjust that so you can still appreciate. I mean, the first time you jump out of a plane, you get an adrenaline rush, you get all that stuff like Barry was describing, beautifully described it. That's a beautiful thing. By the time you do your 50th jump, now it could become ordinary and everything else, but there's still a reason you're jumping. Pay attention to that. What is the reason? Now I've got a new level of awareness about what I'm doing. So it goes from that courage. So now maybe it's not as courageous as it used to be because I'm used to it, but I can still appreciate it the same way by having gratitude for what I'm able to do and seeing all the things and the sights and the sounds and all of that. So maybe we just need to keep an awareness of gratitude for being able to do those things. I'm not sure, gentlemen.
Well, like Scott was doing the cold calling thing you said.
I would throw it up. I would throw it out as definitional, and how would you change the definition? If Barry jumps every day for 1,000 days in a row, you're still jumping out of a frickin' plane. I mean, don't be telling me that's not courageous. Now, whether he feels the same intensity behind it or whatever, you're jumping out of a perfectly good plane. Just land in it. You don't have to do that, right? And so it's the same kind of thing. I mean, a speaker who's done thousands of presentations, I would bet that if you talk to a speaker who's done thousands and thousands of presentations and say, do you feel a little flutter when you're in front of the audience? The answer is going to be yes, because it's you still have a desire to perform and to present and do the very best you possibly can and all that. So yes, it might be slightly different, but the reality is that I love the idea of congratulating yourself or celebrating the fact that you took the action and you stayed in action. Because and Bob said it beautifully, it's the difference between existing and living.
Yeah.
And it's really about living, taking those actions.
Yeah. I mean, you don't grow if you don't get out of your comfort zone. And that's courage right there. Because if you wanna grow, you can't keep doing the same thing. You got to do something different, and you got to use that new muscle to do it. And it takes courage to get out of your regular routine to add or do something different. And so that takes courage, and acknowledge that, you can't do everything all in one day. I tell people when they start a diet program or something, start out small. Don't do everything all the day because it's so overwhelming and you're shocking the system. You can just add or take, as you go. But, courage is, like you said, encouragement. All those things are so important to know that, I love to encourage other people. Sometimes I don't post a post, but I go and encourage everybody and give love to other people and make comments and, support them. I mean, it's, you got to have the courage to get out of your comfort zone. I think it's just funny, I mean, a lot of people will comment on your stuff and then you don't go back and comment on their stuff. I mean, you can't have all the likes in one place and all the comments and not expect to give something back, So now I know Hipster needs to go here in about 13 minutes. So Scott, do you want to ask Jonesy, you want to ask the roundtable question here?
Yeah, I think, and I think it's been brought up a couple times, and I think Bob actually nailed it with courage in your life allows you to live instead of just exist. If you're not going to have, and again, please don't think courage is going off and fighting dragons. That's fine. That's wonderful. But courage is just anything that we try that's new or different, or any experience from a phone call to meeting somebody new to even trying something, tasting a new food, going to a restaurant and never having Indian food before, but saying, you know what, I'm going to try it. It's an accomplishment. So that's living. And so I think I love that. And I think maybe we should all comment on that, the difference between existing and living, which Bob put so well. And that's where courage exists. So maybe we could all do a wrap up on that for a moment.
I'll let Scott go first just because he might need to escape.
Has anybody said Bob Donnell is brilliant?
He is.
Wait. We have a contract with him. We're not allowed to pump his ego that much.
Then I take that back. That's why we're friends and why I love Bob, because he is absolutely brilliant, and he takes these thoughts and crystallizes them like that, which is what he does so well as he's working with people and as he's talking to friends. I think it truly is about, living and playing full out. And, you're going to be up against things every day. You're going to have different situations no matter what you do. And each one is an opportunity to learn something new, to live something new, and to fully experience. We've been put on the planet to experience life fully. Now do it the right way, but go do it. So,
and Scott, Mr. Hipster, you're pretty awesome too. You are loved.
Incredibly awesome.
Yes, he is.
I appreciate that.
I just wanted you to know that. We're so glad you're healing just fine. Yes, we are
honored that
honored.
you take the time to come and join our show.
I love,
this
is such an amazing group. I love Barry. I can't wait till I learn more about you. because
Yeah.
you are also genius.
He is.
Taking nothing away from you, Jason. Jason, I've seen you on stage. I've seen you at events. We've done events together. Dude, you rock it. So
Yes.
I'm honored.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're learning more about Barry every day. I've nailed down his accent. It's Fargo, North Dakota. That's what I figured out now. That's what I'm figuring.
Mr. Barry. Mr. Barry, New Jersey accent, we call it.
Right. To respond to the question rather than all the attacks.
They're not
All done with love, brother.
They're
It's all done with love.
Love.
I know it's
I've got the Long Island accent. You got the New Jersey one. Sorry about that.
Sure. Okay. I think in a lot of ways I'll underscore the point that's been made that what Bob says is true about that existing versus living. For many of us to choose to make changes in our lives, whether it's to change careers or change locations, change habits, that takes courage. And I think for many people, they're not willing to have the courage to feel life. They're so afraid of experiencing life in its fullness. They numb themselves out with alcohol or drugs. They stay in the same routine because it's safer there. But true, as you're saying, like, step outside the comfort zone. And I always said, people think when outside the comfort zone, it's uncomfortable. It's like, no, outside the comfort zone is where the magic happens. So to be courageous enough to try new things out, I've definitely made some changes in life and careers and made major mistakes, but I'm still standing. And even though my bank account hasn't been so happy about it, I'm doing okay. And so for me, that courage is about keep stepping up and keep saying yes, because life is about the adventure for me. So have the courage.
Thank you, Barry. I love you, Barry.
Well said.
Ta-da!
This whole idea of this courage really boils down to what's on the other side of what it is you fear. I have a coaching client, a great friend of mine, who she swore absolutely never going to jump out of a plane. She jumped out of a plane with me. She said at the end of when she hit the ground, and I said, "What caused you to jump when you were so afraid of jumping?" She said, "Bob, I just wanted to know what was on the other side of that fear." And I think that curiosity, if we keep a sense of curiosity, we can be courageous on almost any level.
I love that.
Absolutely.
I love that.
She was a little uneasy when he said, "Could you pay me before we jump, though?" Just in case.
Right.
Just in case.
Just in case,
Yeah. Did you PayPal me yet?
Venmo me on the way down. All right. No, that's great. You're absolutely right. That other side is awesome. I love that. Jason.
Yeah,
Jason, thanks for being here today, brother.
Yes.
Thanks for having me. It's so fun to be here. I know for me, like, I've been a servant of my fears at more points in my life than I want to talk about. And that would take way too long, but for much of my life, I hated the sound of my voice and was so miserable being me, and what things got so much more interesting, more adventurous, as Barry said, when I stepped beyond that and I began not only speaking, but I began looking at other people and realize, hey, everyone has stuff that they're dealing with. Everyone has fears. Everyone has a chance to be courageous. And I just, the more I live fully, the more I learn about it. And that's a learning process. The more I realize that connection is possible and great things are possible for us all, and that's really exciting.
I love you, Jason. Thank you for being here. He is funny, you guys. He's so quick-witted. He comes with jokes. We didn't see as many jokes tonight, but let him warm up. Scott knows it, Hipster knows it, and Bob knows it. He's
Absolutely.
just a jokester. So
very witty.
Yes, we hope that you want to come back and be with us and
Anytime,
meet some of
my
our
friend.
other. Yeah, anytime. We'd love to have you back. You're just a beacon of light. It was just an honor to have you here with all of us.
I loved being here with Lynn and Scott and Scott's Flo and Bob and Betty. Great to be with all of you.
It's gonna be our next show. Scott and Scott. A name so nice we said it twice. All right.
It's better than being. Never mind.
Remember
Daryl and Daryl?
Yeah, Daryl and my other brother Daryl. That's us. That's us. That's it.
Scott had to go.
Yeah, he has to get ready for a show. Yeah. But we pointed out the existing rather than living. There's a phrase that was just stated by Jason that was a brilliant phrase. I don't hear it often, but I'm going to keep it. I just wrote it down. Instead of being a servant to my fears. Mm-hmm. And so many people are a servant to their fears. It's almost like, instead of looking at what are my possibilities, it's almost like, let's start my day with what am I afraid of and what am I not going to do? It's almost that obvious in people's lives, but you've got to have the courage to do little things each day. You're not in a competition. I'm not going to be Evel Knievel. I'm not jumping buses. I'm not jumping out of airplanes. I'm sorry. I think it's a brilliant thing that you did it, but Jesus, I get business class and first class because I like to be comfortable on airplanes and I'm screaming on the way down. But the thing is, it's really easy to stay on the highway. It's easy to get on 81 or 95 and drive south and go from New York to Miami and stay on the highway and see nothing but rest stops and trees and signs and see no life exists on the highway. It's when you get off the highway every once in a while and take a chance, hit a country road, then you find Bob's Diner with the world's best cup of coffee and blueberry pie. And the excitement and the adventure starts when you get off the highway every once in a while. But you got to turn the wheel. You got to take the chance. You got to say, this looks interesting. Let me try it. I might get lost. So what? I found great things by being lost. I mean, so just your adventure of your life starts with having the courage to do little things. Again, we don't have to go out and fight dragons. I don't have to go out and do those things. All I got to do is have the courage to do something a little different today than I did yesterday, and my life gets better each time. And Bob was absolutely right. It doesn't mean I'm fearless, because if I was fearless, then I wouldn't have courage. Fears exist so I can have courage. Fears exist so that when I do get something, there's a reward in it and there's something on the other side. So I love this topic and I love all you guys. Lynn, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I just want to say existing living, the courage to express, to experience things and going into the unknown is awesome because you don't know till you know. And so you're never going to know if you stay in your comfort zone. Stay in your comfort zone, you're not growing. The growing zone is it leaving the comfort zone. And so what's that?
Growing zone. I like the term growing zone.
Growing zone, yes. But the thing is that if people would have realized that they don't experience anything new if they keep doing the same thing, and if you're not happy, then try something that might make you happy. Don't live your life to say, well, this is it. Don't feel like it's the end of life. Every moment you could be living a really good experience life. And, I like to ask people conversations of how did you meet this person? Or how did you get to the new state or these things? Because people took time to change what they were doing. And I mean, if you ask people those questions, like how did you meet or how did you become good friends or what your careers and different things, it took courage. And you will hear every day, you'll hear encouraging, courageous stories of how the trajectory of their life became because of one thing that happened. The one thing that happened that changed their life. I mean, I had a gallbladder attack right before police academy. And that meant leaving my daughter for 8 weeks, cut my hair down to here. And I was going to go in, and my ex-husband, he failed getting into the police academy. He was jealous. So I was like, I'm not leaving my daughter in that situation. But if it wasn't for the gallbladder and gallstone attack, I would have gone right into the academy. I'm just saying that my career changed just like that. You know, I mean, so there's always forks in the road, and then you just see where you go from these different forks. But if you just stay there, you're going to get run over. You're going to get run over if you don't make a decision. When in doubt, don't. But when you don't know what to do something. Don't sit there as the victim of circumstance. Know that you have a choice to look at it as, okay, this is terrible here. That means I need to move. I need to do something. Because if it was comfortable, you wouldn't move and you wouldn't experience anything good outside your comfort zone.
Awesome.
So it's
all right.
We are at an hour and it's time to get out of here. And Scott Ricard, thank you. It says, thank you for a great show. I love what Scott said. Get off the highway sometime and take the turn. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. Well,
and I'm gonna go back. I got to go paint some more. So,
and be safe, Florida. We're thinking of you guys. Be safe. Keep us posted. Okay, guys.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great night.
Love you guys. Bye.
Keeping me safe and sound. And when I fall, you tied